Nervously, as though somewhere deep inside her soul recognized the truth hidden in that whisper, and though she forced a small laugh and said politely, "I'm sorry, ma'am, you must be mistaken," her voice cracked on the last word, betraying the storm rising in her heart, because Lily herself had grown up with questions that had never been answered, raised by foster families who offered roofs but rarely love, carrying nothing from her biological past but a single torn photograph of a young woman whose face was too faded to recognize, and who she was told was her mother, a mother she had never known, and now here stood this fragile old woman staring at her with tears brimming, calling her eyes the same as her daughter's, and for reasons Lily could not explain, her own chest ached with a strange longing, her knees nearly buckling beneath her, and she whispered so softly it was almost inaudible, Who was your daughter?" But before Eleanor could speak, her son interjected quickly, embarrassed, forcing a chuckle as he tried to brush the moment aside, telling the waitress not to mind his mother, that she sometimes confused faces, but Eleanor gripped the table with surprising strength, shaking her head fiercely, declaring with the kind of conviction that silences disbelief, "No, I know what I see. Those are Margaret's eyes, those are my daughter's eyes," and the room grew heavy with curiosity as nearby patrons leaned in subtly, the story of an old woman recognizing a ghost of her past unfolding like a scene out of a novel, and Lily, though confused and frightened, could not simply walk away, because her own life had been a string of unanswered mysteries, of nights staring at the ceiling wondering who she was, where she came from, and why she always felt like a puzzle missing its center. And now perhaps, in this very diner on this ordinary evening, fate had chosen to lift the veil at last, though neither she nor Eleanor could yet imagine the storm that truth would bring, because behind the tender recognition lay a darker history, one buried in betrayal, stolen children, and a family torn apart by choices made in shadows, and while Eleanor's heart longed desperately to bridge the gap between them, a new figure was about to enter the diner, one whose presence would turn a tender reunion into a dangerous unraveling, for not everyone wanted the past to be uncovered, and as the bell above the door jingled and a tall man in a dark coat stepped in, scanning the room with cold eyes that lingered on Lily, Eleanor's whisper still hung in the air like an omen, and the story that was about to unfold would test not only the bonds of blood but the courage to face truths buried in silence for decades, truths that would shake everyone's life to its core. Grandma Eleanor had always been a woman of quiet grace, her silver hair tied neatly in a bun and her eyes carrying 1,000 untold stories that seemed too heavy for her frail body, but on that particular evening when her son took her out to the small family diner at the edge of town, she felt an unusual restlessness, as though some invisible hand was tugging her toward a destiny long buried, and when she sat down at the corner booth with her cane resting against the wall and the scent of fresh coffee filling the air, her gaze lifted lazily toward the waitresses moving swiftly from table to table, one carrying trays of pie, another balancing steaming bowls of soup, and then suddenly her eyes froze upon a young woman with auburn hair tied messily under a diner cap, her smile bright yet shadowed with weariness, and Eleanor's heart skipped a beat so violently she clutched her chest for a moment, her breath hitching as a memory she thought she had buried decades ago surged back like a crashing wave, because in that instant, staring at the girl's face, she saw not just a stranger serving food but the haunting reflection of her long-lost daughter Margaret, the child she had given birth to, raised with trembling love, and then lost to the storm of family secrets and cruel circumstances that had shattered their lives forever, and with trembling lips Eleanor leaned toward her son and whispered, "You have to see her, she has Margaret's eyes," but he only frowned, dismissing it as the ramblings of an old woman lost in nostalgia, yet when the waitress came closer, balancing a plate of pancakes and pouring coffee with polite courtesy, Eleanor's eyes filled with tears, and she reached out a shaky hand to catch the girl's sleeve, whispering words that made the entire diner grow still, "You have my daughter's eyes." And in that electrifying second, time seemed to stop, the clinking of cutlery fading into silence, the chatter of customers dying away, as though the universe itself had held its breath, because those words carried the weight of years of longing, loss, and unanswered questions, and the young waitress, whose name, though Eleanor did not yet know, was Lily, froze in place, her hand trembling as coffee nearly spilled from the pot she carried, her own wide hazel eyes darting